Design, glory to our power, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem, Rachak Kodash, double honor to the apostles, great millstone, peace, blessed, the whole select. I just going to do a quick lesson. This should be quick. Sheet title, it says, it's not the women, it's their customs. All right, talking about, Israelite men, okay, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, Israelite men. All right, it's not a sin for you to take another woman or a woman of another nation. All right, what the going off part is when you go to follow their customs, right, of their way of living, their false gods or whatever they follow. Okay, when really they're supposed to abandon their ways and abandon that false god and that idol that they worship and come worship the true living power, which is the Heavenly Father Yahweh. All right, and so that's where men err. When it has happened a lot, throughout history with the men of Israel. They've gone off because they get with that strange woman, that heathen woman, and then instead of having them, convert over, to which, especially in these modern days, I'm not speaking really on the modern days because it still stands in the modern days, but it's you attempting to change a woman over to the faith in these modern days is just you're wasting your breath. All right, more than likely she's gonna walk away from you. But I'm just speaking in ancient terms, right? The way to do things was to have her worship the Lord, all right, and forsake her false gods and idols, get rid of her, stop going to her groves, and get rid of any idols that she has, and so on and so forth. All right, but that's what the men, you'll see certain time periods in history, our men have gone off because of women. All right, women in general, really, because that could be a variety nation of heathen nations, but this particular point is heathen women's, because our women were already supposed to be following the Lord. They already knew who the Lord was, but the heathen women, they had their own false gods and idols that they follow. All right, and so if you took one to yourself, she was supposed to start to worship the Lord. All right, and that's what throws our men off sometimes, because they eventually they get too attached to that woman, and she just kind of takes him, and he starts to do some of her fashions, her customs or whatever, and slowly he gets weaned away from the Lord to the point where he eventually just he's blaspheming the Lord. All right, he's going against the Lord, or however you want to put it. So this is Nehemiah chapter 13 verse 23. It says, in those days also saw I Jews that had married wives of Ashdod, of Ammon, and of Moab, and their children, and these are all heathen nations, Ashdod, Ammon, Moab, and especially we've heard Ammon and Moab a lot. All right, it says, and their children spake half in the speech of Ashdod, and cannot speak in the Jews' language, but according to the language of each people. And I contended with them, and cursed them, and smote certain of them, and plucked off their hair, and made them swear by God, saying, ye shall not give your daughters unto their sons, nor take their daughters unto your sons, or for yourselves. And why is that? What we just talked about, because eventually, it wasn't a sin, but Nehemiah, I think this was Nehemiah that was speaking, but Nehemiah, he knew that every time this happens, they go off. All right, which the women most definitely shouldn't be married into a heathen nation, because then you completely abandoning everything on this side. All right, you're going under a heathen nation and living inside a heathen, you know what I'm saying? They'll quickly go left. All right, but men, it may take time. All right, because that woman may be taken by him, and she's living in his household, right, or whatever how the case may be, and in whatever land he's living in, and he's following the Heavenly Father Yahweh. But eventually, she may get mad, kind of like what we're going to get into real quick, briefly. She may want to still go back and eventually revert back. She misses her God or whatever. I don't know, whatever. Could be anything, right? She may revert back, and then you might feel sympathetic. All right, I'll allow you to have this grove or whatever. I'll allow you to have this idol here, all right, that's going off. And then she may eventually convince you to do something from her custom. And then if she can convince you to do one thing, she may convince you to do another. And then she may constantly convince you to do things from her customs, which actually leans you over. And then you're going to wonder, well, I want to know more about this custom. And that's where you go off. You go completely left, because you're following that woman instead of following the Lord. It says, and I contended with them, and cursed them, and smote certain of them, and plucked off their hair, and made them swear by God, saying, ye shall not give your daughters unto their sons, nor take their daughters unto your sons, or for yourselves. Did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things? It says, yet among many nations was there no king like him, who was beloved of his God, and God made him king over all Israel. Nevertheless, even him, you see, King Solomon of all people, yes, it says, nevertheless, even him did outlandish women cause to sin. All right. It says, shall we then hearken unto you to do all this great evil, to transgress against our power in marrying strange wives? You see, it wasn't a sin to marry a strange wife. Even men, you see, Israelite men now got Edomite women or Moabite women. All right, it's not a sin, but it's just I guess you could say a very thin line, a very dangerous walk, because these women will have you go off from the Lord. All right, if you're not careful. And so we're going to move on. As a matter of fact, we're going to grab this before we move on. Just one verse. I'm going to go to Ezra 10 and 44. All right, we're going to grab this verse. We're going to jump back over from that off that last verse that we just read in Nehemiah 13. So we'll grab this real quick. All right, Ezra 10:44 says, all these had taken strange wives, and some of them had wives by whom they had children. All right, strange wives. All right. Heathen women, okay, and it says what? Wives. All right, it says, and some of them had wives by whom they had what? Children, old families. And also, this is what, speaking on that point while we're jumping over, this is where you get Israelite foreigners from. Men who have gone and grabbed a Japanese wife or an African wife or a Edomite wife, and they had children. They created families with these women, and over time, their children will come out looking more lighter skinned, all right? Because they're going to look more like that woman, especially after a few generations of this happening. Their children are going to continue looking more what they would say is mixed, but there's no such thing as mixed. You are your father's seed. I'm just saying mixed as in a point of explanation, right? They're going to look more mixed over time, right? And not going to look like that original Israelite man that birthed them, okay, into this world. All right, so let's continue on. We're going to go to 1 Kings 11. Like I said, just a little quick hitter. We're going to grab this 11:3. We just read Nehemiah 13, right, talking about Solomon. All right, it says 1 Kings 11:3. It says, and he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines. All right, King Solomon is what it's talking about. He had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. Why? It said, for it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord Yahweh his power, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. You see that? And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord, as did David his father. All right. And matter of fact, let's continue reading. We can get some more from here. It says, then did Solomon build an high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. It says, and likewise did he for all his strange wives which burn incense and sacrifice unto their gods. And the Lord was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned from the Lord, power of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice. See? So it's not a sin for you to have a woman. It's well within your rights to have whatever woman you want as an Israelite man. But the problem comes in is if you follow their false god. You say, okay, I believe in Jesus. You start following that. Or you start to believe in Allah or Krishna or whatever, that some of those spirits of the Japanese or, whatever from the Chinese and all this, right? When you go off, you allow that woman to continue worshiping what she worships, and you eventually fall in line with that. And that's why I also said that in these modern days, you should be trying to turn the women away anyways. Like if they want to learn something, they want to know, yeah, it's well within your right to teach them that. But if they don't get it, they just don't get it. All right. And so, but you most definitely should not be going off and following behind your wives, all right? seeking the Lord. That's what we should be doing, okay? And not having our women turn us away from the Lord, because the women will get us destroyed. If you want to take that back to the account of Adam and Eve, all right? Women will have you go off, all right, and they will get you destroyed. So Lord, will you edify us next time? I'll try to say shalom. And just to note, this wasn't like bashing women or anything. It was just to bring out a point about the wives and the, the worship of the Lord and so on and so forth. Just if you're not continuing to walk in that spiritual walk, that heathen woman can cause you to go off. So Lord, will you edify us next time? I'll try to say shalom.